Hello there, very good evening and welcome to Let's Talk Politics. I'm your host, Eddie Layne, and of course, this program, as I usually say, is a program that is dedicated to highlighting the progress and development taking place under the People's Progressive Party civic administration. But also, we time and again use the opportunity to respond and to debunk the lies and misinformation coming from the opposition APNU AFC. This evening, I'm joined by an unusual guest, a guest who usually appears with me on Saturday evenings, who, for some miraculous reasons, last Saturday was unable to make it onto the program. um, but Sanjeev Datadin, Member of Parliament for the People's Progressive Party Civic Administration, is with me here this evening as we discuss the progress that are taking place across our country. Sanjeev, it's a pleasure to have you this evening.
Good evening, Ed. It's always a pleasure to be here. Good evening to your viewers and good evening to your listeners.
I want to address um, a couple of things tonight. Just two things I really want to spend the time tonight to deal with. One, we spent some time to talk about the massive program that we're rolling out. Where we're ensuring that citizens who were affected by the recent floods, and as you know, many communities were affected. Um, we are going to address that. The rollout of our assistance to those citizens has begun. Billions of dollars again are going to be placed in the hands and in the pockets of the ordinary citizens of this country who were affected by the recent floods. Over $1 billion on the first day of this exercise in Region 6. Over $1 billion were distributed through checks to many citizens who were affected, rice farmers, cattle farmers, poultry farmers, cash crop farmers, households who were affected, even persons with kitchen gardens who were affected are benefiting from this program. Sanjeev, this is probably the first time. Um, I know there was the 2005 floods when we did something similar to this, but I think this is the first time a program of this nature is being rolled out across the country because all 10 regions of this country were affected by those floods that we had just a few weeks ago. Um, and this is a demonstration of a commitment and the commitment of an administration that has the interests of the people of a country at heart. And, no less a person than His Excellency made the commitment that citizens will be assisted, those who were affected by the floods, whether their homes were flooded, whether their kitchen gardens were destroyed, the rice fields were destroyed, they couldn't go back to the rice fields, the cash crops were destroyed, impact whatever impact the floods had on residents and citizens, uh, His Excellency promised that he will ensure that assistance is given to them so that they can return to some level of normalcy and that their livelihoods, which were destroyed as a result of the floods, that those, they can continue or to get back on their feet. Sanjeev, massive program being rolled out by the administration.
It is a monumental undertaking. It is a massive project that has been undertaken here to make sure that those that have suffered in the floods, we were talking 6 weeks ago or thereabouts about the flood, about how much damage it was causing. It has caused damage to people who do farming for a livelihood. It caused damage to people who had kitchen gardens and farms that helped to sustain themselves. And these people need an opportunity to get back on their feet. They need an opportunity to get back to the farm, to the agriculture, to get back to the farming, so that they could support themselves, the communities they live, and indeed the wider country. And if they don't get the assistance, then we lose that. And food security and self-sufficiency with food is an important thing, especially in the current pandemic, where prices of commodities are so high, shipping is so high, and of course importantly, as we all have noticed, the availability of food items had become difficult because with the flood, the people that we don't even see and we don't even think about that plant these crops and the livestock and the cattle and the chickens that we don't even think about that reaches to the markets and the supermarkets in which we shop to be able to buy food. All of a sudden the water had no distinction. It created havoc and it destroyed people's crops. Now we need to get them back going, but those people on a personal level, they need to be able to get back to what they do, what they know, and what they do very well. And as a nation, it is very important, and it is very a very good thing to see that this has happened so quickly, so shortly after there had been these floods where people were disadvantaged as a result. There is now a program which His Excellency had announced that there would be an amount given per acre of rice field. There was going to be in relation to cattle. There was going to be an amount given for people who had kitchen gardens and who needed to get themselves back on their feet. And this is a monumental undertaking because what it does is it makes Guyana as a whole, because that the flood affected everywhere, but Guyana as a whole can now respond to help its people, help its citizens, and at the same time secure and look after and try to guarantee our food security, which are two connected concepts. One is on a personal level, you're able to look after those and to assist those to some extent for the agriculture base that of the country, but we are also able to feed the nation as a result. And this is an initiative that is a massive undertaking, and but it has happened in such a short space of time. We know we still have rains that are falling when we don't expect it. There are all the concerns that it's unseasonal rains. There are reports, and there were reports last week about some of the areas. Um, the water was coming back again. It was affecting, but you can't sit on the sidelines and do nothing. And the government and His Excellency has taken on the initiative. They've taken it on boldly, and they are making sure that every person that has suffered loss and need a little helping hand to get back on their feet, to get back to being productive, are able to do so in a very, very, uh, I should say, organized manner, because we could have seen that there were criteria set, there were list of people who had suffered, and there was the information gathering, and then there was the amounts fixed, that persons with kitchen gardens were given so much money, so much per acre for a rice crop, depending on what stage the crop was. The people who had livestock, they were also compensated. And I know the people who suffered. Their suffering is, of course, when we were speaking 6 weeks ago about how difficult it was with all that flooding. But at least this goes some way to alleviating that suffering and hopefully get them back on their feet as soon as possible.
Thank you very much, Sanjeev. And and I'll show some images. And I'm doing this because I want to deal with a specific issue. These allegations of how who will benefit and who will not benefit, and how the program will be rolled out, and so on. And we're showing images of Guyanese of all walks of life benefiting from this initiative. You have Guyanese of all walks of life. As long as you're a farmer and you had made the submission about your farm that was affected, and or your household that was affected, and an assessment was done, you benefit. It doesn't matter who you voted for. It doesn't matter your ethnicity. And it's sad, Sanjeev, that we have to be ever so often talking repeatedly and address almost every time we have these opportunities, address the issue of race that is being misused by the opposition. It is sad that in the 21st century, we have to be in a position where we are addressing issues of race and have to respond to the baseless allegations of racial discrimination by the government. Every program that we roll out programs for the people of Guyana. We have never rolled out a program specifically for any demographic, any race or any religion or any voting population. We roll out programs for the people of Guyana. And when you look at the beneficiaries of the agriculture assistance, clearly you're seeing that all Guyanese are benefiting.
Want to know, or who want to be mischievous, or who are set on saying things for the sake of saying it, that would not accept that this is a very transparent process. You see, Ed, all the information, everyone who has been affected, the information is gathered in the communities, which means those are the people who live in the communities too. And they can tell this person was a farmer, this person was not. So that is being compiled from the community level. And then those lists are get make their way to our leaders. But then, as again, Ed, very importantly, you see when His Excellency announced this the relief package, he laid out the clear criteria. If you had a kitchen garden, there was so much money you were going to be given. If you had, if you planted rice for a living, if your rice was about to be harvested, then you were going to get so much per acre. And if you had just only prepared your land, you were going to get so much per acre. If you had cattle and you had so much head of cattle, this is what you were going to get. So there is no shift that it will be each person will come. There is a fixed criteria that bodes well for transparency. The information and the data is being gathered at the community levels, which is where people will know who in their community is farming, who has a kitchen garden. That's what they would be able. So the information that is being gathered in a way as best it could to be certifiably true. But then we have the communities, the wide across the board communities. It doesn't matter ethnicity. It doesn't matter who they voted for. It doesn't matter which areas are considered to be pro government areas or pro opposition areas. It doesn't matter any of that. All that matters is these areas were affected. And we know that all of Guyana was affected. This was unprecedented rainfall in a very short space of time. And even now we're having rainfall when we're not supposed to, or we don't expect to have rainfall in August, but it's going on. And the rainfall is very heavy rainfall in a very short space of time, which lends itself, Guyana is below sea level. It lends itself to flooding. And as a result of flooding, people are losing their crops, they're losing their livestock. So this is a very transparent process in how it is being rolled out because the information is being gathered and the criteria is fixed as to what compensation will be given. So it has nothing to do with areas. Across the board, if you had a kitchen garden and it was affected, you were given a fixed sum of money. If you had rice, across the board, wherever you were located, whatever it is, whoever you voted for, whatever is your ethnicity, irrelevant. The criteria is fixed. Did you have a crop? Was it affected? Did you have a garden? Was it affected? Did you have livestock? Was it affected? So the only criteria that is established is you must have had the crop or you must have had the livestock and it should have been affected. And at the community level, that would have been recognized. And you needed to put it forward, the people in the community confirm it. It had nothing to do with anything else in a very transparent and organized manner. I
But
think you muted it.
yeah, I just realized that. Importantly, you made the point, and many of us would remember. Those of us who weren't old enough at that time maybe read the literature with regards to when to get old age pension in this country. At one point, people had to pass a means test, and I understand of recent, within the 5 years that APNU was in power, they were quietly administering means tests to people before they benefit. You have to meet certain criteria. One, if it's contract, you have to give back a certain amount of the money to individuals in the APNU government, and you have to donate a certain amount to Congress Place. If it's the rollout of a program, you have to either be connected to the party or someone for you had to be connected. So some people's brothers were rearing pigs because they had parliamentary representatives as their relatives. Some people were storing Barbie equipment in their homes that should have been in the hands of people, of the people of the community. You had people rearing chickens while they were living overseas, rearing chickens here. And when you look at the people who were benefiting, they were all connected. It either somebody brother, somebody relative, or somebody directly involved. You got people in Linden who benefited from land, who ministers in the previous administration, a minister who benefited from lands. You have another minister who built a sprawling mansion, a former minister. Well, she was minister then, on 4 house lots. So there was silently you had means test to people. And the means test was you had to be connected to the APNU, or if you get a contract, you have to be able to give a kickback to individual ministers, or you have to donate to Congress Place. Under the People's Progressive Party Civic, as it has always been, never there was an instance where people had to meet criterias, political criterias, or had to be connected in order to benefit. You will look at what is happening, what happened with Because We Care cash grant. It was rolled out across this country for every parent with children in the government school system, regardless of the community where they came from, regardless of who they voted for. Look at the cash grant that we did for the COVID. Look at what is happening now. Look at the communities that are benefiting from streets. Look at the people who are benefiting from house lots. And when you look across, you're going to see that Guyanese are benefiting, not Guyanese of any particular ethnicity or Guyanese who support the PPP or the PNC. All Guyanese are benefiting. And that is the difference. That is the difference of this government. And that is why we keep showing those photos, to show the diversity. It's not because we want to show off that we're giving money to people. It's taxpayers' money we're using. But we're showing you that we are administering and we are distributing the resources of this country equitably to all Guyanese, depending on the program that you're doing. In this case, it is being distributed to farmers and householders who were affected by the recent floods. And the people in Kwakwani will benefit, the people in West Babis will benefit, the people in Region 7 will benefit, in Pomeroon will benefit, in Region 8 will benefit, in region, all the regions, people will benefit because they were affected. It doesn't matter whether they voted for us. It doesn't matter whether they're Indian or Afro-Guyanese or Portuguese or Amerindians. What matter is that they're citizens of this country and they suffered as a result of the floods. And that is the kind of policy, that is the kind of position the People's Progressive Party Civic Administration has been taking and will continue to take.
Indeed, Ed. And you see in some corners and in some quarters, they're saying that, oh, these are all government handouts, that as a result of which people are going to get lazy, and such ridiculous uh, statements are being made by those in opposition. But Ed, we have to face the reality of where our country is. COVID grants were necessary because people were struggling it. People couldn't, the country, we went initially on a lockdown. Even now, there is care about various things, even though there isn't a lockdown on. There are less opportunities available to the poorer persons who work daily. There are not as many opportunities, and they have to be able to look after themselves. Especially, we might not see it so much in the city in Georgetown, but it is very pronounced in the countryside and in the interior locations. It is very, very pronounced. But people have no way of, because business on a whole is affected by COVID because not as many people are out. So some sectors of society are affected more than others. The taxis might be affected more. The restaurants might be affected more. The entertainment industry is affected. But at the same time, Ed, when the people are suffering, what do you do? As a government, it is your responsibility to do everything you can to alleviate that. So you give people a little bit of assistance, as much as you can afford. Guyana is not a rich country. Guyana is a country with great potential, and we must understand as a people that the fact that we have oil doesn't mean we're rich. It means that we have the potential to do better for all Guyanese. We heard the vice president says that he wants to grow what would be the per capita income, and he wants to grow it quickly. He wants to move it from where it is now. He wants to move it 5 times higher than what it is. So these are things that we have to acknowledge, that we are a poor country. We have resources and potential. If we manage it properly, we'll be better off. But we're not rich. So when cash grants are given for COVID, we are giving, the government is giving what it can afford. The government is giving what it can do. The government appreciates. It's a demonstration by the government that they appreciate what is happening. It's something that, I mean, nobody expected COVID would turn into what it has become. Nobody expected it to last this long. Everybody thought at the beginning, we just need to close down for 3 months and then everything will be fine. That's not the way it's turned out to be. Then the Because We Care program is because school children, they're not, they need some resources, and parents need a little bit of help because, again, of the pandemic, to be able to put their children more comfortably in school, and in some cases to be able to put them in school, to put them through the school system. Children weren't going to school because the parents are struggling to be able to afford it. So it has to be done. And then the farmers, we didn't plan for the rainfall. We didn't. I know people want to say all the things that they do that are totally ridiculous, but nobody planned for the rainfall. Nobody's to be blamed for the rainfall. This is a natural phenomenon. But as the Irfan President Ali has said very clearly, he governs for all Guyana. And whatever we face, and whatever difficulties and hardship we face it together. The government faces it with the people. So when all of the citizens are suffering from a flood, and there are challenges and difficulties, then they got to if the government is vigilant, and if the government is caring and wants to take care of the people as best they can, they give them assistance so they can get back on their feet. And all of these programs, people are saying that it's just handouts and the handouts are making people lazy. It's not making people lazy. People didn't bring the pandemic on themselves so they could get a cash grant. They didn't go and flood their land and their livelihood so they could get a cash grant. These are not things that people could have done. These things are literally acts of God. These are things that nobody had control over. But once it occurs, it is incumbent upon a government to address and to face it and to assist the people as best they can.
And Sanjeev, but I don't want to, because of time, we have maybe about just about 10 minutes more. I want to move to the other issue, and it continues to be worrying. It continues to be worrying with regards to how this desperate cabal in the APNU AFC are attempting almost on a daily basis to mislead and unsuspecting Guyanese, who maybe are not getting the kind of time to follow what is happening nationally or internationally. So they are these guys are so desperate to make the government look bad. They are so desperate to make the government look bad that they are willing to use their supporters. They're willing to use the people who elected them in the first place to be members of parliament in the opposition, of course, as pawns. So these gangsters in APNU are continuing to circulate and to spread and promote their anti-vaccination propaganda. They're continuing to do that. But they're continuing to tell the people not to take the vaccines. But I want to show you a photo. I want the photo with the former president and his wife to come up really big on the screen. Cover the screen. We're going to deal with the other one in just a bit. I want this one with the former president and the former first lady displaying vaccination cards. They are saying to the people of Guyana that we are vaccinated against the COVID 19. But Granger's minions, Harman and the others, and his party, which he seemed to have no control over, or maybe he's part and parcel of the wicked attempts to get people not to be vaccinated, are telling citizens to turn out. You have rights. Reject vaccination. Let's protest. Let's do this. Let's do that. But Granger and his wife, the former first lady, took the vaccines. Harman, Harman publicly confessed on national television at a press conference that he took the vaccine. Matter of fact, he confessed that he took Sputnik, the same vaccine that he was creating an uproar over. He took the vaccine. Worst yet, they're trying to mobilize people to create problems and to say to people, don't take the vaccine while they're vaccinated. All of them. Each and every one of them. You look at the gang that was in New York. Look at the gang that was in New York. Look at the gang. And it will tell you who are vaccinated and who are not. They are the ones that are vaccinated, and they're telling you, the average Guyanese, the average citizen, the people of Linden, the people of South Georgetown, and all over the place. Look, you all don't go out and take the vaccines. And they're doing this, Sanjeev, spreading some sort of, I don't know what kind of racist nonsense about PPP don't like Afro Guyanese. The basis of some of these arguments that they're putting forward, I don't know. I don't know where they get them from.
Well, as the first thing I say, Ed, is this. For weeks, every week, we beg people on this program. And I beg everybody that I come into contact, please get vaccinated. It is the best advice that we have now. It is the best course of conduct that we can undertake now. We cannot take a chance. You have to protect yourself, you have to protect your families and your communities. This is the reality that we live in. Now, the funny thing about this, and it's not funny, but it's beyond belief. The people who are organizing these protests have been vaccinated and are telling the people who are coming to these protests that you have the right not to be vaccinated. You have the right not to be vaccinated, and the people who are organizing it are vaccinated. Now, they're protected. Then, when you bring all these people together, it becomes a super spreader event. The likelihood of people getting harmed and hurt greatly increases because you put them all together in this protest. And why would you mislead the people that way? Why not give them the information that, look, the best scientific minds and the best scientific advice is you should get vaccinated. It could save your life. It doesn't mean you don't get COVID, but it means that your symptoms don't go to the stage where you would need hospitalization and it'd be fatal. Now, we have to realize, like most things, Ed, you take the best available advice. A lot of the medicine that we take daily, aspirin, Tylenol, if you look at television, I mean, when you look at television and they advertise various pharmaceutical and drugs, and they quickly go through all the possible side effects that you could have, which have come up. You hear of all those side effects, and you think, well, why are people taking it? And they have all of these side effects. You have to realize, though, what they're saying about what they're talking about on television when they advertise is what are possible maybe side effects, but what is the effect of the drug they're selling? It will help alleviate a particular ailment. Now, the current state is, and the Minister of Health has been very clear in Guyana, we've not had adverse events. We have not had adverse circumstances in relation to the vaccine so far. And I hope it continues that way. But it is the best protection. The government has secured all these vaccines and brought it to Guyana. All now, the thing is, what I don't understand, there are a couple things that, I mean, are so obvious. For example, if these vaccines are to affect people adversely, and that is why we're trying, they're telling their supporters that these things are going to cause all kinds of imaginary things. Bill Gates will be putting a chip in you to track you, and all these things they say about the vaccines, which are totally false, but they say it. And they say that this is what the government want to do. And these vaccines are not good, and we shouldn't take it. And the government is trying to make the people in opposition ill. Well, then why did everybody in government take it? Why did everybody take it already? And we are encouraged, and we have encouraged every citizen, including the supporters of the government, to take it, and they have taken it. So if there was something wrong, why would all of us take it? If we were not taking it, then you might say, well, oh, you're trying to get us to take it, but you don't want to take it. But that is beyond any dispute. Every government minister, the majority of the country, the majority of the people who are taking it, there is now more people in Guyana who have taken vaccines than have not. So the majority of the citizens in this country have taken vaccines. We have gone over a little bit. So more people have taken now. But we have to accept, Ed, that this is the best possible thing that we have. This pandemic, we didn't invite it here, but we have to deal with it. And if it is, as the opposition politicians want to say, that it will cause illness, then we've all taken it. That alone would debunk the foolishness of that, and then we have the other things. The Minister of Health is, Dr. Anthony, has been warning the Delta variant is very contagious and it's creating havoc across the world. And it's only the vaccinated people who are doing better with it. And we need to protect every citizen, even those who have views that against the PPPC and who might not like the PPPC. You still should protect your life. You should still take the vaccine because you owe it to yourself and your family and your community to do this. You can't insist that you have the right to do that. Of course, you have the right to nearly do everything, but there are consequences when you want that right. You could drive too fast on the road, but you should get charged for speeding. Of course, you could say you have the right. You have the right uh, not to take a vaccine that will save your life, but you don't have the right to impose it on everybody else. To say that you are going to stop people from taking the vaccine, or to say that you should freely be allowed to go everywhere and they should not require any sort of, the rest of the country should not require any sort of protection from the fact that you may be contagious. I mean, this is an unbelievable thing to say. And for the political leaders in the opposition to organize these things and to publicly bring people into close proximity with each other when they're vaccinated and they're telling the people that they have the right not to get vaccinated, it's utterly reprehensible. And they would be better off spending their time encouraging people that you should get vaccinated. These are the places you could get vaccinated. These are the benefits that you would have. Try to encourage people, explain to them that COVID is not a joke. The ailments, the symptoms, the things you have, the things you should look for, what you should do, how you can better protect yourself. This is what they should be doing. But instead, they want to go and have a protest to say you have the right not to be vaccinated. But your employers are going to tell you that we're not sure we want you to come to our offices if you're not vaccinated. And then you will find that you're not allowed into to restaurants and bars because that's private property. The same way they can say to people that if you're under the age of 18 and it's an adult bar that you're not allowed in, private people are allowed to impose conditions. It's not discriminatory because we have to be careful that people will say it's discrimination. This is a real threat. This is a contagious disease. This is something that if I allow you in my space, I put myself at risk. And if it's my private property, why do I have to do that? And this is what people have to understand. The rights of the few can never outweigh the rights and safety of the majority, not when it's a pandemic. You got to be realistic in what you're doing. And this is leadership from the opposition that is utterly reprehensible and poor. They're doing their people and their supporters a great disservice by doing this.
Thanks so much, Sanjeev. And it is sad, and I hope the people of Guyana will continue to monitor and to see what is happening and to make the right decisions. Today, we receive 140,000 plus of the Pfizer vaccine for the school age children, and that also will be rolled out quite shortly. So certainly, we are going to continue, and I think people are smart enough. I think these guys are taking Guyanese to be fools, but they are not. We're not fools, and I think people are reading and people are getting the information. They know what exactly happening around them, and they're today I passed at the Ministry of Health, and I saw about 300 persons there taking their vaccines, and that's happening daily. So Guyanese are taking their vaccines.
It
These
is getting,
naysayers,
yeah.
they can go right at Coffee Square where they usually go, and they can make all the noise. At the end of the day, the people of this country are smart and they know that they ought to be vaccinated if they want to protect themselves and protect their families. Sanjeev, thanks for being here with me this evening. Time has quickly slipped away from us. Um, it's always a pleasure. We're going to do this again on Thursday and, of course, on Saturday evening. Until then, I say thanks for being part of the program, Sanjeev, and to our viewers, we want
My
to say
pleasure.
thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Good night, and may God be with you.